Hello mortals, this is Kai Smash Universe, and it's finally Halloween again. Now I've already listed my favorite Halloween video games and cartoons, but now it's time to move on to the big screen. So this year, I'll show you my top 10 best movies to watch for Halloween. Coco. This movie takes place on Day of the Dead.
No, mija. It has nothing to do with Halloween.
Hey, I didn't say they have to be about Halloween. Plus, not everyone celebrates Halloween, so why not put in this one? It's about a boy named Miguel who wants to be a musician, despite his family being against it. When taking his opportunity to express his talent, he finds himself exploring the land of the dead. This creative and immersive world is an amazing addition to the Pixar universe. While this movie is based around the day after Halloween, I'd say it's still a fun movie to watch for the Halloween season. Hocus Pocus. In this Disney classic, 3 witches called the Sanderson sisters have been using children's souls to gain immortality and power. But like at the Salem witch trials, they were hung the moment they were caught. Fast forward to the present day, and we have our main character Max, who's out trick-or-treating with his little sister Danny and his crush Allison. When they happen to stumble upon the Sandersons' house, Max decides to have a little fun and light a candle, but this ends up bringing the sisters back to life, and they are determined to finish what they started centuries ago. And what's worse is that Danny happens to be one of their prime targets. But luckily, they were gone for so long that they weren't aware of how much the world changed around them, which gave our heroes the upper hand. And it gets pretty comedic when the witches try to get used to the present day.
Tis a black river. Perhaps it is not too deep.
I hate Halloween.
Who are they?
Witch hunters. They wear black robes and carry axes to chop the wood to burn us.
The hobgoblins. Oh. Bless you.
Overall, I find this to be a good, fun Halloween adventure. Saw. These movies I don't recommend for those who get squeamish when it comes to blood and dismemberment. In fact, these movies may be the most graphic out of all the entries. Aside from all the gruesome traps, there's a lot of mystery throughout the series. At least, when you watch the first 7 movies in chronological order, you'll see more of the story unfold as you go. Saw, as well as its sequels, put in a great effort into these creative yet horrifying traps that may even put Mortal Kombat to shame. It, Chapters 1 and 2. Not something I recommend to those who are afraid of clowns. In fact, I shouldn't be surprised if this gave people a fear of clowns. It's about some kids who have to face a horrifying killer clown named Pennywise. While they defeat him at first, the second chapter shows that the clown has returned, and it's up to their older selves to put a stop to the menace once and for all. It's graphic yet creative how Pennywise lures and catches the victims, and who can forget his iconic red balloon. While its older adaptation was a classic, this one did an even greater job at bringing Stephen King's novel to the big screen. The Nightmare Before Christmas. Some might call this a Christmas movie, and that's fine. It can work both ways. For me personally, I call this a Halloween movie because most of the movie takes place in Halloween Town, and Jack Skellington is the main protagonist. Sure, he does enter Christmas Town at one point, and in the later arc involves him trying to learn more about Christmas and pulling it off in his own image. Though let's be honest, Christmas already has its own share of scares and monsters, but this was a unique twist on the holiday. This movie shows that Halloween and Christmas don't mix, but at the same time they do. While this wasn't the first time Tim Burton combined those elements into a movie, The Nightmare Before Christmas did an amazing job at putting the 2 most amazing holidays together and seeing what would happen as a result. Surely it didn't end well for Jack, but at least he learned his lesson, and he got to try something new for once. I already talked about the video game and the cartoon series, but now it's time for the movie that started it all. The original Ghostbusters is a Halloween classic. The story is fun and comedic, and their special effects were amazing for the time, and still are to this day. Did I mention they have the best quotes?
Don't look directly into the trap.
I looked at the trap, Ray.
Light is green, trap is clean.
All right. This chick is toast. Don't cross the streams. We came, we saw, we kicked its ass.
If there were ghosts flying around, and you want an epic scene with some comedy, then who you gonna call? Ghostbusters! And finally, let's not forget that this was only the beginning. There were comics, merchandise, and of course, the real Ghostbusters, which picks up right from where the movie left off. Return to Oz. This movie is based on the second and third books in L. Frank Baum's Wizard of Oz series. Basically, it's a spiritual sequel to the classic MGM film. Disney even had to pay them extra to allow the ruby slippers to be used in the movie. This movie has a thrilling adventure centered around Dorothy returning to Oz only to find the place in ruin. She would soon meet characters from the second and third book who would join her on her quest. The movie may look like a Disney classic for children, but it's full of many frightening elements like the Wheelers and the Gnome King. The Wizard of Oz book series had many scary moments that were left out of the movie, but Return to Oz would be the exception. Spirited Away. This movie has built an immersive world of spirits and monsters while taking inspiration from Japanese history and folklore. It all starts with a young girl named Chihiro, finding herself in what appears to be an abandoned amusement park. When the night falls, she finds out that her parents were turned into pigs, and the town was actually crawling with spirits. This movie has a creative setting with top-of-the-line animation, which we all can expect from the works of Hayao Miyazaki. There's a great diversity of spirits around her as she enters and works at the bathhouse. The whole facility she spends most of her time in is so creative and mysterious. Not only is this a great movie to watch for Halloween, but an amazing movie in general. This list wouldn't be complete without the slasher movies. They give off a chilling atmosphere, with characters getting axed off when you least expect it. The horror and suspense keeps you on your toes, with the fright that it brings for the Halloween season. Many of these had a great share of sequels, and while not all of them did well, I'd say these franchises had a great run. Some even crossed over like Freddy and Jason. In fact, Freddy vs. Jason did more than bring these characters together. The comics that followed continued their story even further. Now, these movies deserve a list of their own, but if I had to pick one for this list, I'd go with the Halloween franchise. Not just because it takes place on Halloween, but because it sparked the slasher genre into what we admire today. While I do admire how Freddy and Jason crossed over and even continued in comic form, we can thank Michael Myers for the inspiration of their movies. Now, I am aware that some of the slashers, including this one, had reboots. However, they didn't do nearly as well as the originals. But now the franchise is back with more sequels, and I hope you're as excited to see them as I am. I've considered other Miyazaki films for the list, like Kiki's Delivery Service. This movie centers around a young witch in training named Kiki who travels to a town with her talking cat Gigi. While there, she puts her broom flying skills to great use by starting a delivery service. The Harry Potter series. If you want a good story, it's better to read the books. Hellraiser. Honestly, I like the first few movies, but I think the fourth one is where the franchise started to diminish. I find it redundant that they pulled a Jason X and had it take place in space, basically riding on the alien bandwagon. Plus, I think the book had a better origin story for the lament configuration. The Ring. This horror film is about a haunted VHS tape, where whoever watches it dies in a week. The Evil Dead trilogy. These movies were amazing, and despite being on a budget, they had the best special effects for the time. Army of Darkness was my favorite for adding a climactic adventure to close off the trilogy. The main character, Ash, is the most badass monster slayer ever to grind through the big screen. Remember when I said that Freddy and Jason continued their story beyond the movies? Well, that was from when Ash Williams himself encountered them in the Freddy vs. Jason vs. Ash comics. But that's not all. The story continues in the show Ash vs. the Evil Dead, which ran for 3 seasons. Ash is who I find to be the best iconic hero to keep going through horror movies and always survive to fight through the next. Groovy. But what are your favorite movies to watch for Halloween? Are there any I missed? Let me know in the comments. That's it for today. Happy Halloween.